One to order, if you'll rise and join us with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, has council had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes of June 15th, regular and executive session? If so, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. Motion to approve them.
The minutes.
All right, we have a motion from Becky, second from Mike. Any other discussion on them?
I'd abstain.
All right. All those in favor can state aye.
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 Opposed, carried. Any changes to this evening's agenda? Hearing no changes, I'll ask for approval of the set agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Those in favor can state aye.
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 Opposed, carried. Guest and open forum. Anyone for guest and open forum this evening? Nope. Are you going to go for the public hearing later?
Maybe I should wait.
No? Okay.
Public hearing is for administrative fines. So then, no.
Oh, okay.
Guess we'll just do this now.
All right, come on up.
We'll go back.
Thank you. Thanks you for inviting me back, Mr. Doring. I appreciate it. Ms. Mayor, council members, again, you can come up here and back me up.
Yeah, he's like he's the best sidekick you have there.
Yes, this'll work. Okay, stay right there. Again, I appreciate you guys inviting me back about this topic, again, the ATVs. As I mentioned in my first appearance, city ordinances really are supposed to make communities safer, more peaceful, and provide a higher quality of life. And this ATV ordinance does none of those things. And there's just no disputing that. And maybe we're already too far down the road on this thing. I don't know. Maybe it's a foregone conclusion, but I hope that's not the case. So I only asked you to let me present 3 things today. I'll try and make this quick. But it's in these 3 points that I think that if we don't address them now, I just feel like as a community, we're going to be very sorry. So I've had the opportunity to read the new ordinance language. And while I think that we have a solid start on that, we need to do better. Because if we don't, I fear someone's gonna get hurt. And if I'm wrong on any of these next assertions, please, just please correct me and let me know. The first topic I just want to touch on is the permit process itself. And as I mentioned, I think that you have some great upfront requirements here. You're requesting that they show up in person, to fill out the paperwork, have their machine actually inspected for safety and noise by a great law enforcement team, which is fantastic. And maybe the best part of it is that you're requiring a certain level of insurance that people carry on these machines. I mean, they're gonna be out on the road, right? And all that is great, but here's where a lot of that stuff goes out the window. And it starts with the upfront fee that's being proposed. Why in the world would we only ask a $5 fee for this very large and dangerous privilege? And then on top of that, we make it good for 3 years. So in essence, that's $1.66 a year. Surely our office admin's time is worth more than that. We gotta print the paper, we gotta give it out, we've gotta print the permits, we gotta print the stickers. Surely our officers' time inspecting these machines and making sure that they're safe and making sure they're not too loud is worth more than that. And I don't want to even go into the enforcement part of it because that's gonna be my next point on this. So I'll keep it rolling. $5 is just not cutting it. If people really want the privilege of driving their 4-wheeler and ATVs up to Food Pride, up to the gas station, over to Dollar General, up to Beck's, then this special permit should be a minimum of $100 to $150. And that's not asking too much. It just isn't. Also, you have this fantastic rule about insurance I mentioned. Well, how are you supposed to keep tabs on that if you make this good for 3 years? Okay? They can just put insurance on it and then drop it. I mean, and honestly, we really shouldn't care about what other communities are doing because believe me, they have their own problems with this that you might not hear about. we can only care what Becker is going to do. So if you want to give these people a break on the fee in year one, year 2 or year 3, that's fine, but they should have to re-up every year so we can make sure that their insurance is good on it. Okay, there's just too much at stake. Okay, and that just makes sense. Number 2, I'll keep this rolling, enforcement. We as a community are just not ready to enforce something like this. We're just not. And there's nothing in this ordinance that's gonna change that. Okay, we don't have the resources to enforce it, and it's completely unfair that we ask the citizens of this town to police it for us. And that's exactly what we're going to do. I mean, many times after hours on the weekends, we only have one squad car on duty here in town. Just one. I mean, making it almost impossible for them to even get to the scene of the crime in time. So what happens? They don't get caught. And what happens when they don't get caught? Bad things happen. And then what happens when they don't caught? People stop calling in. I had the same 3 joyriders this very recently, up and down the street 5 times in a 3-hour period. I called in twice. I don't think we ever caught them. All the time. So before this moves forward, ladies and gentlemen, this must be addressed. I mean, if we can't catch these offenders, how are we gonna keep people safe? How are we gonna keep the kids safe? We need to address it. So in my opinion, the best way to do it is with the permit itself. These permits should be at least 12 inches in size. They should be white background, a number on each side. They should be placed on both sides of the machine. So when they come in to pay their fair share for this permit, they're assigned that number. And when they decide to go out for a joyride, citizens at least tell dispatch, hey, it was a red 4-wheeler. It was number 23. So then the officer can at least look it up. Oh yeah, that's so-and-so on this date. If they can't catch them, which 8 out of 10 times they're not going to catch them, they can at least go to the person's house and address this with them. Okay? Again, very important. We also should be able to have some kind of a texting deal or be able to send videos or pictures in. People hate calling in to Sherman County Dispatch. I hate it because they always think it's an emergency. Well, it's not necessarily an emergency, or 911. And what ends up happening is people will just quit calling in. And as I said, we can't have that. We need the citizens' help to keep calling so we can catch these people. So again, if we're really gonna lean on our citizens to help us keep this checked, let's get them some resources so we can do it, okay? I mean, it's really that simple, folks. Let's get them some resources. Finally, my third point on this is on the specific off-limit areas that these machines should not be allowed on. And I think it's great that you already have parks, no school grounds in the policy. That's fantastic. But we need to specifically protect the Becker Athletic Complex. This area is a target of not only ATVs, but cars and trucks, and everybody else goes out to use that area specifically as their own personal dirt track. And I have video if anyone wants to see it, because I get plenty of it. And I recently saw that some cameras were placed up there recently. I think they're cameras. They look like cameras. And that's a great start. I don't know what those are for, but I would love for somebody to let me know how they're gonna be used. But that kind of activity goes on when kids are out there playing, when they're at the ball fields, when people are out there walking their dogs, when they're out there, the kids at the playground. It's just dangerous, and we have to catch them. Also, Morning Dove Drive, the street that exits that's my street. So that's where I get all my fantastic evidence from, because I'm right on the scene of the crime all the time, right? No wonder I'm so mad about this. Was never meant to be a through road. When I moved into Becker 15 years ago, it was a dead end, or it was at least meant to be. We've had barriers in the past. We've put up things so people couldn't drive through there. For whatever reason, this kept changing, but the landscape of that road changed as well. But we really need to go back to see what we can do about that. It's not a through road. It should never, but again, that's in keeping with the ATVs. We'll leave it at that, and I'll maybe address the Morning Dove Drive situation again. But again, we need to keep the ATVs out of there. To park or drive through, it's not, this council really should look at some resources to make that parking lot and safe drive area safer anyways. And I'd love to be a part of that plan. As I finish up here, and I promise I am almost done, I understand the pressure that you guys are under. I get it. Council members, I get it. My hope, though, is that logic safety, and the love of this community can guide us here in making the right decision. I know I've made jokes about turning this community into a seasonal resort and things of that nature, but really at the end of the day, I truly feel this ordinance is an unnecessary evil that we just don't need. If this moves forward, really, we must do all we can to put some kind of educational resources out way ahead of time. So people can, most importantly, understand the ordinance, but even more importantly, the repercussions of breaking the rules. And they should be severe. If we do a better job of educating everybody, we might have a shot at making something like this ordinance manageable. But there's still a lot of work to do on this. So again, I respectfully ask this council that a pin be placed on this ordinance immediately until we can properly address these issues. And I understand a lot of work has been done, but I still think we can do better. It's dangerous just to kind of throw something out there and say, we'll just make changes on the fly. Because that's when bad things happen, and I know nobody here wants to see that happen. And as I said before, the citizens of this town, they don't need anything like this. Our law enforcement officers don't need the stress of enforcing it. And our community as a whole does not need the fear of something terrible happening because of it. We hear horror stories of ATV accidents all the time, recently just out in Monticello. Let's do better on this thing, is all I'm asking, okay? And I offer my assistance if you'll have it. Thank you. I'm happy to field any questions. I don't know if that's a part of this, but please reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to help anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time, the extra time. I appreciate it.
All right. Anyone else for guests in open forum? Seeing none, we'll go on to committee reports. Joint Powers Fire Board.
Okay, we met on June 21st. It was just a pretty quick meeting. We just are starting to get going with the budget and all that stuff, so that's pretty much all we really discussed. And we will for the next how many meetings? Budgets.
All right, how about the Golf Committee?
Golf committee, we had an interesting meeting. We obviously went over our financials, and they are looking good as they have all year. We discussed the maintenance lease. We got equipment that's coming up, and Jason was there to discuss what pieces he'd like to hang on to and what pieces he wants to let go. That'll be coming forward later. We also looked at a proposal for Finn golf cycles. It's little personal scooters that you put your golf bag on, and it's kind of like a golf cart, only it's only got two wheels. And they're fairly inexpensive. They brought them out for a demo the following day, I believe it was, and created a lot of excitement. They're fairly inexpensive, and Josh is looking into maybe getting a couple, see how it goes type thing. No action was taken other than that. We were closed on the 4th. The clubhouse was closed on the 4th. Josh felt that people needed a day off because, as you know, help is hard to find. Gonna change the food service delivery to have them drop it off and deliver it into the building, so that, because you probably have all been out there at one time or another when the trucks are in the driveway and you basically can't get through there. So we're looking into having them deliver it right to the coolers in the evenings or at night, so we'll see how that goes. That's pretty much it. And we had an open forum, discussed different issues that we all had, and I don't think anything is worth mentioning at this point.
Okay.
So that's about it.
All right. Joint Planning. Joint Planning, we met and approved 3 variances, and it was very quick.
It was very quick, wasn't it? It was the fastest ever.
15 minutes.
Yeah. Yes. How about Finance Committee?
Budget and Finance met on June 23rd. We went through
all the financials. BCC is not back to pre-pandemic levels, but is trending in the right direction. Golf, like Mike said, is doing great. Past due invoices, utility invoices are about as expected where they normally are. AR invoices are up to date, and we talked about a tool cap that it's going to need to be replaced. And that was about it.
All right. How about Planning Commission?
Planning Commission, we had 4 public hearings, which we'll be discussing this evening and making some. And then we discussed the River Bend common property issue that they have out there. Did we approve the letter for that? Or just talk about it? I think we approved the letter for that. And we gotta wait and see what happens there. Other than that, we did have a discussion on the SUV thing, just talked about it. We didn't take any action or anything. That was it. Public hearings took long enough.
Okay. Any other committees that were? None? All right. We'll move on to City Code Chapter 8 Recreational Vehicle Ordinance with Chief Balloon.
Mayor, council, good evening. In respect to some of the comments that were made by Pete, I certainly respect those comments and certainly make some good points. Just to address a couple of those that I can, at least at this point. As we've discussed in the past, first, this did go through Planning Commission prior to coming to City Council for approval. So there were some discussions related to what it is, how it works, that sort of thing. One of the things that obviously did come up was a fee. How do we address that? Initially, it was proposed as something free for the residents, not to impose another fee on our residents, but rather follow up as a application process to track and to monitor who has those. So it was proposed as 0, but the Planning Commission recommended at least $5 for that. So that's where the fee came from, or that amount came from. The 3 years was proposed based on what other communities have kind of done. We felt that would kind of maybe lessen some of the burden on us if it were for 3 years. And the Planning Commission kind of agreed we'd move forward at that point. As far as insurance, we are allowed to put insurance on these, request insurance on these vehicles. We can make things a little more stricter from state law standards as a city ordinance. As you may or may not know, ATVs are allowed to run without insurance on on trails. But if they are gonna be on city streets, we can impose or request insurance on them. So that's one of the things we did do. We thought that was appropriate. And it was recommended actually by the League of Minnesota Cities. As far as enforcement, are there ever really enough cops? You know, the chief is gonna say that. So, as far as trying to get around and watch what everything is doing, where everybody's going, that's always gonna be a challenge for us. And we're certainly up to the challenge. We do the best we can to monitor activities as far as ATVs or people driving their cars, whatever it might be. So we do watch the BAC as best we can. Oftentimes we do seem like we're after the fact. There's no question about that, but we do the best we can to try and monitor that as calls come in or whatnot. People are always reminded they don't have to call 911 and kind of make it seem like it's an urgent thing when maybe it isn't, but there is a non-emergency number to be able to call either to the sheriff's office dispatch or to the police department. Texting thing would be a great idea. If we could do something like that, that's something certainly to discuss either with the sheriff or certainly with us as well. Certainly would look into that. And as far as off-limit areas, one of the things we made sure that when we looked at the ordinance that all parks were kind of addressed. So without getting specific, we left it as a generalized term as city parks. So the BAC would be considered a park, therefore they're not allowed in city parks. I get it, driving through, we get the trucks and even ATVs on occasion, I get that. So again, we certainly request the residents to give us a call when these incidents occur, and we'll certainly deal with it as we can. We don't always have somebody in position, but that's just the nature of the beast sometimes. They're on the opposite side of town when the call comes in, and by the time we get there, they're long gone. But we certainly ask people to do the best they can, be as observant as far as getting descriptions or license plates or whatever it might be on a particular vehicle, and that certainly helps us from an investigative standpoint. So with that, again, what the ordinance here addresses is Class 1 ATVs, Class 2 ATVs based on size. Utility task vehicles, which are more of the razors, if you will. mini trucks, motorized golf carts. So the current ordinance is being changed to reflect what we're seeing kind of not only locally but elsewhere beyond central Minnesota, is the permitted process to allow these to drive within a city. We are following suit by doing that. Over the years, as you well know, this topic specific to golf carts has come up. We did have a permitted process at one point. It wasn't really utilized that much. It went away, and here we are. Like I was talking with Greg today, oftentimes these things are kind of an evolution in our process. You know, I think as our city grows, there's more requests on us, as we all know. I think this is one of those requests. You know, you get a different demographic moving into the city, younger people, those that are sports minded, you know, that would be the ones utilizing some of these vehicles. We've already got a group of people, if you will, that drive the golf carts here, so I think we're continually adding to that part of our community that wants this to occur. So the best thing that can happen here is, like I've said as well, you know, my time is kind of limited, but at least at this point, I have an opportunity to create something that I feel could be lasting for us to a degree. So it gives me the opportunity and others the chance to put things in here that allow for enforcement, I think for safety as much as we possibly can, et cetera. So what we've done again is to limit it to where they can be. They can't be on school property. That is an addition to the city ordinance. That was not identified, but we feel based on past experience here and ATVs and stuff like that, we don't think it's appropriate to allow those onto school property. Specific when you look at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, what's going to potentially happen if we have 30 ATVs rolling out of the high school parking lot. We do recognize that as a significant safety concern. So there's that as well. But just to go through this really kind of quickly with you. Again, as you know, there's some changes to the ordinance specific to trucks operating on residential streets. I'll just point some of these out. Some of it is language specific, just update. Snowmobiles operating on bridges. There was nothing that would indicate a snowmobile could cross a bridge, but if there's no way to get onto the other side, you kind of have to allow them to do that. So as long as they stay to the right. So then you get into the recreational vehicles. I'll just point out a few things here. Again, parks, you know, the city council has the ability to designate where vehicles such as this can go and cannot go, but it has to be identified per city ordinance. You know, so they would be allowed on city streets, cannot go school property, boulevards, park property, playgrounds, recreation areas. Golf courses, as we know, is a completely separate issue as we kind of address it here. Unless it's permitted by ordinance, in this case it is not. So they'd really only be allowed on city streets or on private property where allowed by the owner of the private property. Again, ATVs are classified as 1 and 2 just based on width and size. So that's where you get kind of the difference here. Noise is obviously addressed here. They cannot be on sidewalks or walking paths or anything like that. You know, there are equipment requirements like the mufflers and stuff like that, but there's also helmet, seatbelt requirements if it's designated. Let's see here. You know, the lamps and stuff like that on the vehicle itself so they can be seen, although they are only allowed from sun up to sundown. They would not be allowed in bad weather or inclement weather because of visibility, so therefore they could not be driven then. Rear view mirror would be required. And then we can kind of get into some of the penalty type issues for those that are non-compliant, if you will. The chief of police would have the ability to revoke permits as we see fit, in the sense that if we see a violation that hinders or goes against the safety standards that we have set, we have the ability to revoke, and there is a penalty process for that. First offense of what we deem safety issue would be a revocation of the permit for 1 year from the date of the offense, $75 administrative fine. Second offense is revocation of the permit for 3 years from the date of offense, $150 administrative fine. If there's a third offense, the revocation is indefinite with a $300 administrative fine as identified. Again, Pebble Creek, kind of a separate issue there because they do have to pay a trail fee. So those that want to use their personal carts, golf carts, that's separate. So we're only talking about being on city streets and stuff like that. So again, those that would want to access Pebble Creek with a personal cart still has to pay, or would have to pay, the trail fee, and I believe they do an inspection there as well before they allow access. And I believe that's, Mike, is that about $5.50
Yeah, or more.
or more? Okay. So
$5.50 plus tax.
got it. So it's significant just to be able to use your golf cart on the course, on Pebble Creek, so. Again, some of what we've got here tonight is also something to address the administrative fine process. We'll talk about that here later. But again, we have the permit process with the form that's attached to the packet. So you'd be able to see how that is. We did put a little caveat onto the form that says they have read and understand the ordinance prior to the application of the permit. So they're signing off that they've already read the ordinance as well. So prior to the issuance of the ordinance. And again, it's for 3 years. Not that none of this can't be changed, but that's kind of how we designated it at this point. So I don't know if there's any, I kind of went through this relatively quickly, but I know you had this kind of review the last couple of days anyway. Do you have any questions on anything that I can address for you?
Yeah, have you noticed an increase in machines since we started talking about this ordinance?
We've seen a few, in particular neighborhoods. Why, I don't know. I think some of this,
Everybody thinks that they can do it now.
I know. I know. And it goes back to, you know, what's put in the paper, all of a sudden people don't read the whole story. And we've seen that certainly with Freedom Days and the suspension of the rules. Everybody thought they could drive their golf carts all over town. And we were getting called about that. And I think in some cases, that's what spurred some of the discussion on this. Hey, I can ride my ATV then too. What are you talking about? So just because of the timing, it got kind of confusing. So
This particular ordinance now, a little scooter that stands about this high, is that covered under that, or is that?
So when you talk about a foot scooter, those are identified in the ordinance as well. So it identifies if they're motorized, that sort of thing. If they're non-motorized, it's not a big deal, but if they're motorized,
Well,
then
if
it
it goes
becomes
30 miles an hour, I think it's a big deal,
then it would be. Yep,
even though it might be electric.
correct.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is because I've noticed much more ATV, or utility vehicle, sport, whatever, traffic since discussion has come up. But I saw one on Sunday that just really kind of bummed me out. It was a big guy on this little dinky scooter, and he had a little kid on his lap, and he was going like 30 miles an hour down the sidewalk and no helmets.
I think what you're finding nowadays, for probably a lot of different reasons, is non-compliance. I'll ask for permission later. We're seeing that in all aspects of enforcement. People are gonna do what they're gonna do, and if I don't get caught, then no big deal. And then when we do catch them, it's all of a sudden, it's somebody else's fault.
I mean, this is a baby.
So, yeah, you're right. I will add, just so everybody knows, that there's a couple things here. We can deal with the ordinance as one part of the enforcement. The other part is the state statute. You enter the city street, on any motorized vehicle, there's a whole nother ballgame to play here. And they'll be treated like a motor vehicle. So when you talk about DUIs, forfeitures of vehicles, and for whatever would happen, there's a lot of things we can do just by the fact that they're driving it on the street. So people need to understand that enforcement is going to be relatively strict, because that's how it is. If you're out there drinking and you're on your four-wheeler, we can take your four-wheeler just like we could take your car. And same thing, I mean, we talk about insurance. Well, vehicles got to have insurance. We have no way of knowing who has insurance or doesn't. We get people all the time with no insurance, but they're also cited for it, and they have to go to the court for it. We can tow the vehicle. We can take it away from them so they can't continue to drive it. So again, that's one of those things where if we find it, it gets dealt with. And so it'll be cited, we'll take it away, whatever it is. So I can tell you this, and I think I've mentioned this in the past, and I know Pete and I have talked about it too, and it's just one city, but talking with, well, the new chief over in Big Lake about this, and they've got about 650 plus permits over there that they've issued in the, 1 year or 2 years that they've actually had it over there. Similar ordinance, and they've had only several revocations, maybe a couple handfuls of tickets, but they've virtually had few problems over there. What they found is this community, if you will, tends to police itself. We saw something here recently where they had like an ATV run or something like that, and the word got out relatively quick, don't screw it up for everybody, otherwise they're gonna take it away. Which is kinda nice for us to be able to see, because that's what you hope for, they're kinda taking care of their own. Any other questions, Mike?
Well, no, I was wondering if you noticed that. I
Yes,
created concerns for me is.
absolutely, I
I'd
understand
like
that.
to say.
You know, and there's no question, it creates a perception and an enforcement issue, and sometimes, as we know, you gotta question, what are people thinking when they're doing stuff like that? I don't have a good answer. In one way, that's job security for me, because these people just don't have a clue. And then we catch them, we cite them, we take the vehicle away or whatever it is, but, and sometimes that's the only way they learn.
As far as that fee, I remember when we were talking about it, our intent is not to have another source of revenue. It was just,
Enough to cover the cost of the permit,
yeah.
yeah.
And that's in answer to your question there.
Well, I mean, it was just not only the permit, I mean, it was everybody's time, you know, time
Yes.
is worth something.
But we already
You guys have.
budget for their time, so, you know, they're already on the payroll, so it's just, you know, it's, like I said, it's not, we didn't look at it as a source of revenue.
Well, no, it was, my main point is, make it worth it, because when you price things out, it causes the people that are gonna be driving, like you said, on that scooter with that baby with no helmet on, they're not gonna go pay $100 to get a permit, but they'll pay $5.
Yeah, well, I don't know, you did raise some concerns, I'm done talking.
I was at the, I'm on the planning commission as well. I wasn't at the last meeting to hear your comments there. But been involved with this, discussion going all the way back to my very first council meeting. One of the first items of business we had on the council meeting was the revocation of these, which it wasn't worded as it is now. It was much different. Pertained strictly to golf carts, I believe, at the time, and this was 2012, 2013-ish. So, you know, kind of seen it go full circle here. I think, just a couple points, you know, just to kind of, you know, that we've talked about at planning commission, probably discussed at the, last meeting here. Driving rules still totally apply. I mean, reckless driving is still a thing. If you're doing donuts with your four-wheeler, whether you're permitted or not, you know, if you're out in the middle of the intersection doing donuts, you know, you are still eligible for a reckless driving ticket. And I know when we talked about this before, I mean, it's kind of like guns. It's not the legal ones so much, it's the illegal ones that are, you know, probably gonna cause more of the problem. And I know with, Big Lake, it seemed to be more of the folks that were going through the permitting process were actually doing it right. We're probably gonna be your ones that were gonna give you the least problems. It's gonna be the ones who don't go through the process and just say, you know what, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. Those are gonna be the ones that are probably gonna give you the problems, whether you have a permit process or not anyway. They're not gonna follow it before or after. So at least with the permit process here, you, allow folks to be responsible and, you know, you get, you know, to show insurance, even if, you know, I mean, when you think about with, driver's license tabs, for instance, you do have to put in your insurance, like when you do them online, you have to put in your insurance. Well, that's a point in time. That's not a span of coverage. So, I mean, on June 30th of 2021, I put in that I had insurance. My insurance could have expired July 1st. Those tabs are good for 12 months. I could go 364 days without insurance technically, and I was totally compliant on June 30th when I did the permit. And yeah, we talked about the, you know, 1 year or 3 year, and just, you know, like Mike said, you know, we weren't looking at it as a source of revenue just to, you know, generate more money. And I mean, I do understand your point that it, you know, somebody might take $100 permit more seriously than a $5. that's not a set in stone thing either. I mean, if that's something that we do feel, if we do see an issue and we do feel, we do address the fees every year, we do a fee schedule. This is a special one here, but we do a fee schedule review every year in December. And usually one of the last ordinances that we do in December is a fee schedule update. That is available at any time that we could say, you know what, I think bumping it to 100 for the sake of, making it, more of a thing to be taken seriously, that is a possibility. We've actually done that in the past too. We've done that with, we have the snow ordinances on here tonight. We certainly don't incur $150 worth of cost when we go out and shovel somebody's sidewalk. The point is that we had businesses that were coming to us and they were saying, oh, it was only $70. Great, I'll let you do the whole thing. And it was cheaper for them to pay the fee basically and have us go out and, city staff go out and shovel it. Well, that's not the point of it. So we did actually up that, not because so we have historically done that. I guess it's not under the question.
I understand that too. And again, my point is, I think it would be a much better idea to set the bar high first than allow it to be set so low that anybody can clear it.
Mm-hmm.
Is all I'm saying. Why not? What harm would really come of it? It would only be better. Appreciate your comments.
And then the permit size, I mean, there's nothing in the ordinance that we don't need to have an ordinance change to, I kind of actually like that. I think we've already got some made up, but I'm not opposed to making it bigger, I guess. If it's.
Do they need a DNR sticker on their vehicles?
ATVs and stuff like that, I believe they do for registration.
So like on boats, they gotta put a number on it?
Correct.
So there should be a number
Registered, yeah.
visible?
Can't see them.
What, say that again, I'm
There'd
sorry.
be a number visible?
Each permit has a number on it,
Yeah, but
sticker.
I mean, like on the boats, you gotta put the number on the boat?
Well, they're not that big. Like I say, they're a sticker this big that, the ordinance identifies that it has to be clearly visible, much like a slow-moving sign on a golf cart that I found over the years in Becker is that, well, I've got it. Yeah, but you got two golf bags sitting in front of it. I can't see it. So, gone through that many times. But, so it's identified that it has to be made clearly visible. You're right. Trying to read the number is gonna be a challenge, but, if they're screwing around, we'd still need probable cause as we would with vehicles as well. I can't just go willy-nilly pull people over. So, but if they are doing something, it gives me the reason to go check the number, pull them over or whatever it is, and then I can go back and check and see if there's, okay, well, they're doing donuts or something like that. We know it's number 31 and nobody's around. I can send them a ticket too. So there's things that we can do to try and help with that, but, it's an interesting concept, I will admit.
Is the permit issued to the owner or to the machine?
It goes to the machine by virtue of the owner.
So both. So if the person sells the
Yeah.
machine, the person that buys it doesn't get a free ride on,
Correct.
okay.
Permit obviously has to stick on the machine, but it's attached to somebody. So whether that's mom or dad in a sense of a 16-year-old with a driver's license, somebody's gonna be responsible for it.
Okay.
Question. So you have a four-wheeler, you get it permitted. They're on the streets going up and down the neighborhood. Is that not an offense then because they have a permit?
Great question.
Because I mean,
So one
I'm
of-
gonna be honest, my neighborhood is turning into a goddamn ATV racetrack.
Yeah,
And it's like,
yes. Great question,
Yes.
yes.
and they're not even,
So-
half of them aren't even of age, which I know is an issue.
Correct.
They could, that's an easy pullover,
Right. So one of the things we've identified is that, the rule is this is not for joyriding. This is from going from point A to point B to point A. That's it. So if people are, again, as Rick would say, if they're out in the middle of the street, now they're beyond the point A to point B. We look at, similarly, our city curfew. If they're at a school event, they might get home at 1 o'clock from a school event. Well, now they're out after curfew, okay? They're supposed to go straight home. But if they stop off and hang out with friends all of a sudden at McDonald's, they've now violated the curfew. Same thing kind of applies here. So if you're kind of stopping off somewhere in between and we're able to prove that, that's a violation.
So going up and down the street doesn't work?
Correct. Does not. That would be considered joyriding.
Because people are looking at this as joyriding, I'm thinking.
thus what you say, and one of the things we had planned is educational piece. We were gonna be talking about that at some point here to get that into the newspaper as a start. We've got it also already identified on a webpage for the police department. You and I have to probably talk. So we've got it on the website already. We've got handouts for it. People come in to apply, they will be given a copy of the ordinance just to make sure they have it. That's our plan. So they can't say they've never seen the ordinance. Of course, they have to sign off on it. So we're trying to plan for these things. We'll see what happens.
Are you opposed to making that $10 rather than $5? Because you're gonna have $5 worth of paperwork, just, easily. You're gonna give everybody a copy and all this and that, and $10 is nothing either, it's just, it covers the cost.
So is the surrounding area all like around $5? Like why, I
Big
guess,
Lake
why
is-
was that a magic number?
Big Lake is 0.
Oh,
Again, it came up as not to try and create more revenue or a fee
revenue.
onto the residents, but rather, let's just get it passed, move on. But the planning commission felt that there is, the payment to buy the stickers and stuff like that, we should at least recover our fees for that. So that's where that came up.
Yeah,
Is that fair, Rick?
that's exactly where we come up, but I'm wondering if we shouldn't go 10 instead of 5, is all.
We need another change to the administrative process, the fee schedule then. So, because we just passed that the
No, I'm
last
just
meeting
asking.
for $5,
I'm
but we
just
sure
asking.
could. I think what'll happen here is, over time, we're gonna recognize some things that likely do need to be changed, and that happens. As we monitor, with what is left kind of in the season, if you will, here.
Right, and
We'll see
December's
how it
coming
goes.
up, we'll be resetting
Yeah.
rates anyway, so it's not a big deal at this point in time.
Except you've set it for 3 years, so somebody that pays $5 today is good for 3 years. So they won't get hit
right.
second time, so something to think about. The point of frustration for me is the enforcement piece of this. Just the citizen disruption of trying to call into the PD to have somebody, reviewed or looked at. I know the four-wheeler issue is an issue in my neighborhood for sure, and I think that's what has really deterred me not to want to go for this, and maybe, it's the Class A ATV people. I see the side-by-sides and the golf carts, and I'm not, saying they're better or anything, but I do see them a little bit more watchful of each other, or used as a point A to point B, the golf course and back, or, but the ATV people, they've kind of ruined it for me by what they've shown me, just within the past couple weeks, so,
Oh, you notice an increase also?
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, and it's it's joyriding, but it's like, how fast can I go around these two curves?
Yeah,
And, it was a speed raceway, I just sat there and watched, I'm like, this is just,
And what happened to just using a car from point A to B? That's just
well,
me.
yeah, that's the same thing, by where I am, it's a wide corner, but I know they go around there 50 miles an hour when they, sometimes, but there again, you don't see them, you can't catch them.
yeah.
However, with the traffic laws being applied, I guess I'm not that concerned about that. If there's a certain time that things are happening, I think people can let the police department know, and they can maybe sneak around and watch and catch people.
Yeah, but how many times is that citizen gonna call in before the police are able to identify?
Yeah, I like the idea of the texting, snap a picture and text it to the police department. I like
Or
that.
being able to identify, this was permit number 23. Something.
Yeah.
I feel that needs to be,
I would tell you this, the current ordinance is very vague. This beefs it up considerably. We're in a position where we've already been questioned by the sheriff's office. Your ordinance allows people just to ride into town right now, and nothing really happened to them. So we're in a position where we've got to do something regardless, whatever that is. So whether it's beef up certain things, and this has, and again, it's by virtue, Mike's right on the end of thinking that, this state law, this, for traffic is pretty specific. And if they're caught, I mean, it's pretty significant fine, and it goes on a driving record. Although we've got some administrative things that wouldn't necessarily, but that's a discretion the officers have based on the offense. So,
do we have any ATV trails nearby? With nearby
And they drive in
meaning,
ditches, specific times of the year they can.
I meant like that would pull them into, like, that we are a point A to point B.
Right.
Yes, because they can go out to Highway ten and drive on the Highway
Okay.
ten ditch. So they come, I have seen them come by me to get out to Highway ten.
Okay, and city streets, County Road 23, that is
They are
not-
allowed by virtue of the ordinance.
Okay,
Yes, because if it's, they typically would be prohibited in the town on a county road or something like that, but by virtue of the ordinance, they'd be allowed.
I guess I just have one reply comment. I mean, every example we've heard here tonight is not permitted behavior in a sense. I mean, everything we've talked about here tonight is something that is not covered by the ordinance. If it's somebody doing donuts, if it's somebody flying up and down the street 50 miles an hour on an S-curve, I mean, that's not something that we're okaying here tonight. I mean, this is gonna be the people that are gonna do the permit process are gonna be the ones that wanna follow the rules. I guess that's the way I look at this. It's not gonna be everything we've talked about here has happened without this in place.
Right.
So to say that we're gonna be increasing, I mean, what you're gonna do is you're gonna give the people that are gonna follow the rules a path to do it. I don't think anything else is gonna happen. I mean, somebody's not gonna go through the, insurance, the permit process, just so they can turn around and make it more easy to find them when they're doing donuts. That's not, I don't see that as happening. This is gonna give folks who will follow the rules a way to do it, and the other folks that are gonna do the 50 on the S-curves or whatever, they were doing it before already, but it's more, there's more teeth to it if you do catch them, which you still, even without this in place, let's say we don't pass this, you still have to catch somebody in the act of doing it. I mean, when I was out door knocking in 2018, I remember a neighbor, I went into a neighborhood that I don't normally go into, and somebody told me about somebody riding dirt bikes. They had 2 kids riding dirt bikes, wheelies up and down the street all the time. And, they had called, and, law enforcement would come by, and of course, they're long gone by that point. You know who it is, but this is already in place prior to the process. So I just don't feel that we're gonna see an increase in illegal behavior, I guess. This gives
You
you,
probably might even see less, because some of these people that do this will go through the permit process, and then they'll know that, you know what, I gotta stop screwing around. But more importantly, I guess, like Brent said, what we have now is nothing compared to. This would be a stepping stone, so to speak. It can be beefed up down the road, but I think doing something like this is better than doing nothing, even with all of our concerns.
Is this a good time to ask for another officer? I'm kidding. I'm kidding, but,
okay, but if you ask them for an ATV officer, then it's gonna be a little line.
I didn't think of that.
Side by side.
Didn't think of that, but, no, you're right, and you're right, Mayor, enforcement is always gonna be the key here. Like in your particular neighborhood, we need those people to call us directly, instead of waiting and trying to go through an intermediary or anything like that. It certainly helps if they call us directly so we can get out there as quick as possible. I know it doesn't always work that way, but I can only hope for that. So, and people just need to be willing to call as soon as possible.
So how does council feel in regards to the fee? I know that had been spoken about this evening.
Well,
I know
like we
that
said,
it causes a little bit of issue, Julie.
like we said, we didn't intend it for a source of revenue. It's, what we felt we should cover our cost, and I was just questioning is if $5 was enough to cover the cost.
I guess at this point, I'd maybe make the recommendation, we just move forward with the fee and see how many we get and see how it pans out, and maybe if that's a change we gotta make when we make the other changes, that gives us until December really to take a look at it.
Think we not have it, sorry, go ahead.
the process for the fee, we would have to call for a new public hearing.
Correct.
Right? That would be.
Yeah.
So then what happens, like Tracy said, so we wait, we see how many we give, but then those people have 3 years.
Well, that's the other part of the process,
what
is
I
do we
mean?
change the length of time?
I think we should just see if we're already testing, I don't know, just my thought. Then take away the
The
3
reason he
years.
suggested 3 years is to take the
Oh, for sure,
voter
like the
work off,
paperwork
so
and all that,
otherwise
yep.
they're-
I get it.
they're inspecting machines every year.
I'm having a tough time with the $5, I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I get the point, like, you know, you don't wanna be like, oh, Becker's trying to take our money and, you know, cause we get that. But I just look at, you read it like, $5, I'm not gonna do it, what's $5? Not gonna do it, I'll take my chances. That's just my gut feeling, maybe I don't have faith in humanity or something.
I mean,
That's just,
it costs more to get a Happy Meal at McDonald's than,
right. Like, to me, it almost makes it sound like we just don't, just quick get the
I like that.
permit, $5, we'll be done.
Let me make a suggestion here real quick that just, I'd like to say it was my idea, but it was not. Thank you, Marie. Under number 10A, there is a fee schedule discussion later on a you know, for, fees.
Whatever.
If you decided you want to change it, I would suspect that'd be okay if there was a discussion at that point and you want to make a change, is that correct? Thank you very much.
So you would pass
So-
the one tonight, but then you would still call for the public hearing, because we call for the public hearing, that would open it up for, again, for discussion in 2 weeks, because we have another,
Yeah, would that, we have to do it in 2 weeks? Yeah. Well, then, yeah, then I would ask, how would you want to proceed with the ordinance then?
I'm looking at Julie as a policy and procedure.
Right.
So if you, when Marie calls for the public hearing, we can do a public hearing on the whole fee schedule and pull out those places that we can adjust. So we could adjust those fees for the permitting process at that time.
Even though that this would be voted on this evening.
In that time period, you could potentially issue permits for $5
Yep.
in that time period. But come the next one, then whatever change was made there would apply.
Does that make your messaging more difficult though, to implement and then reel it back and make a change again right away? It could.
Kinda. A little confusing.
I kind of feel like if we tabled this until after the public hearing, like the public hearing could take place and then this could be 10A, 10B kind of thing. On the next. meeting.
table this, table
Table this
Table the
discussion
ordinance.
8.
to July 20th, right? Because, or, sorry, Marie, let me look at your thing. You're calling for the public hearing, not a public hearing this evening.
Correct.
Yeah. So we have to call for it, so table this until the next council
Yeah,
meeting.
2 things then.
Then you have both of them on the same agenda.
Which they would need to be anyway, but we would have, so on the agenda on the 20th, we would revisit number 8, which we're on right now. And then we would have 10A, which would be a combination of what Marie had plus the fee be 9A, I guess, for
Yeah,
tonight.
you would do Marie's first and then Chief's second.
It's great to do that, but then do you have a recommendation for fee to put in there or not?
At this time?
Yeah.
Not at this moment. But
Because the public hearing will be for a specific fee,
for a,
am I correct?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Yeah, so they gotta know what that fee is that we're gonna have the public hearing for.
So we should decide the fee tonight,
Yeah,
now, and then table?
well, we don't have the other information on here for the,
is that protocol though? I just want to be able to follow.
Generally though, when we not, I mean, so, table this, get the public hearing position. Between now and then internally, we can have a staff meeting and make that recommendation that'll go into the packet for that public hearing.
okay,
Right.
that
So
works.
it just be a
Yeah.
That works, yep.
conversation about.
Yep.
So don't need an amount?
Not from council this evening.
Until you do that next packet.
Okay.
Not from council tonight, unless you want to give us some direction. We're thinking $100, we're thinking 50. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have some sort of idea.
That's what I was asking to do, was, that's why I asked what she thought a reasonable fee would be. Like I said, we didn't do this with the intent of creating a source of revenue,
Right.
but I don't wanna spend extra money doing it either.
Right. Like the cover admin, like we have $25 for an administrative fee for a permit, admin permit, at City Hall.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, we're handing paperwork out. we charge per copies. I mean, if we think about like how our fees are built.
Then again, you could make the opposite argument too, that having the low fee, you know, if the higher the fee, the more someone might say, well, I'll roll the dice. You have the low fee, there's
Low fee
almost,
might encourage people to get the permit and
you could make that argument too.
And at Big Lake, it's free, right?
Other communities
I don't
don't have
think
a
anybody's gonna move from Becker to Big Lake or move to Becker from Big Lake.
So does this like cover township and
ATV
everything?
fee, but-
Like
No.
record? No,
just us,
right, okay.
yeah,
Does township
I
have any
don't, yeah,
in place?
I don't care.
not to
what
my
fee.
knowledge.
It's whatever you guys want.
I guess myself, I'm fine with the $5 fee. I guess I'm not gonna die on that hill. I don't have a strong opinion on it. I guess that was the opinion we had at planning commission, was just cover the cost of the stickers, and that was really all we really,
You can always raise it.
if everybody's fine with it, but at $100, I guess that's, like I said, I'm not gonna die on that hill, but I'm fine with it at $5.
I don't think a very high fee is going to do what we want. And what we want is for people to come in and, you know, sign off that they understand the rules and get a permit and blah, blah, blah. But you're giving a permit for 3 years. I know like Public Works, you know, like that admin fee is $25 just to, you know, make sure your sprinklers are in the right spot or any of that kind of stuff. I kind of feel like your time is of an admin fee, $25. And it's for 3 years, you know? Going above to like $100, I would agree. I don't think, you're gonna have a lot of people rolling the dice on whether or not.
the more people that get the permit, the more vehicles registered you have, the description, there's paperwork, there's a place to follow up if you have a picture or
And the more
description.
enforcers you have, cause they'll enforce it also.
Yep,
And they'll let the police know.
yep. I don't know.
I'm good with it.
Okay. Maybe start at a 25, see how
25?
that,
Okay.
kind of run your paperwork, check out the other administrative fees, make sure it's aligned.
Sure.
But, and it's for 3 years. I know you were saying 5, and I get,
So then we need a motion to table this till our next meeting?
yes,
Make
please.
that motion.
I'll second.
Motion from Mike, second from Robin to table until July 20th. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay.
I'm sweating.
Sorry.
Eventually, we'll get through this.
That's my line. One way or another, we'll come to an end here.
Okay, Brent, you're up again. Public hearings. Change to administrative fines in chapter 10.
Correct. Yeah, as you are aware, a couple of things for myself. I've also added in a couple things for Public Works so we can do it all at once. As part of this ATV thing, we want to make sure, as part of the enforcement piece, that we added in some administrative violations, so we have those identified. That was the equipment violation, driving with no permit, use in city park, with the attached fees of $50, $75, and $50 respectively. In addition, the odd-even watering system violations have changed, or requesting the change of those as well. So the first violation is identified as a warning, second is $50, and third, and any subsequent violations would be $100. So with that in mind, I'd ask you, Madam Mayor, to open up the public hearing on any discussion for that.
All right, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing at 6 PM.
Madam Mayor,
What did you call me?
Madam Mayor.
As opposed to what?
I just got a chuckle, so. Sorry.
It's a stress release.
All right, so public hearing is open for comments in regards to the odd even watering administrative fees as well as the specialty vehicle equipment violations. Anyone for that? If not, I'll ask them for a motion from council to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Those in favor can state aye.
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 Public hearing is closed at 6:01.
And if there's no questions, would ask for a motion second to approve ordinance 238 second series and ordinance updating chapter 10, section 10.08.
I will make a motion to approve ordinance 238 second series and ordinance updating chapter 10, section 10.08.
I'll second that.
Motion from Robin, second from Mike. Those in, any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
And then a request.
yeah,
for-
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Then a request for publication.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 238 second series summary for publication purposes.
I'll second that.
Motion from Robin, second from Mike. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, changes to the city fee schedule for watering ordinance violations. Mr. Listen. I feel like all we have tonight is fees.
Sorry. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So to follow up on those changes in Chapter 10, I'm asking for the changes in Chapter 2 that reflect both the change to the watering ordinance, the penalties for that, and then also the fees that the chief described for the equipment violation, driving with no permit and use in city park. So I'm asking, tonight we have the ordinance 239 second series. So that's the ordinance revising section 2.19 of Chapter 2 in city code, providing for fees related to licensing.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing at 6:02. Anyone here this evening wishing to address these fees? Seeing none, I'll ask council to make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion from Becky, second from Rick. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are closed at 6:03 PM.
And then a motion and a second to approve ordinance 239 second series, revising section 2.19 of chapter 2 in city code would be appreciated.
I will make a motion to approve ordinance 239 second series and ordinance revising section 2.19 of chapter 2 in the city code.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And finally, a motion and a second to approve the summary for publication purposes.
I'll make a motion to approve the summary for publication purposes.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Certification of snow removal charges with Mr. Listen.
Yes, so tonight I have an RCA for council. It's for the public hearing for certification of those unpaid charges from sidewalk ordinance snow removal that was done in the past winter, specifically in January, February of 2021. There's currently 37 unpaid charges for that work. So I asked the mayor tonight to open the public hearing related to those unpaid charges.
I'll go ahead and open the public meeting at 6:04 PM. Anyone here wishing to address the assessments for snow removal at their property? Seeing none, I'll ask council to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are closed at 6:05 PM.
Okay, and then it asks council for a motion and second to approve resolution 2153, adopting those assessments for the sidewalk snow removal fees.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2153, adopting assessments for sidewalk snow removal.
Second.
Motion from Becky, second from Robin. Any discussion? With none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, board, committee, and consultant reports. A call for public hearing to change the fee schedule. Ms. Flipson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the first part of this, in addition to Brent's request, So Community Development and Public Services has been comparing our fees and looking at different ways to try to spark development within the city of Becker. One of the fees that we have identified that we could be more competitive on is our parkland dedication fee. So when a new development occurs, you can either do land for a park or you can pay a sum of money in lieu of that land. So we are looking to call for a public hearing, or are requesting the call for a public hearing to look at that fee to potentially reduce it. We have talked about this at both EDA and Planning Commission, and both groups are supportive of reducing that fee. So the motion and second would be for a public hearing, excuse me, for July 20th for discussion of the parkland dedication fee, and then also the recreational vehicle permit fee as well.
I'll make a motion to call for a public hearing to be held Tuesday, July 20th, approximately 5 p.m. to discuss the fee change for parkland dedication as well as the fee change for recreational vehicles.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Change to Chapter 11, Section 11.40. Ms. Flipson.
Thank you. So during the last Planning Commission meeting, we did discuss an ordinance change specific to the commercial districts. There was a district that had restaurant or diner listed twice. So it was within an allowed use and also a conditional use. So that is contradictory. So we moved forward with that public hearing. There were no public comments on that. So tonight would just be an ordinance amendment to remove diner and restaurant from the conditional use section of the ordinance and leaving it as a permitted use. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take those. Otherwise, it'd be two motions, one for the adoption of the ordinance and then the second one for the ordinance summary.
Well, hearing no other discussion there, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 240 second series, amending the city code chapter 11, section 1140, subdivision 4.
Second?
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 240 second series summary for publication purposes.
Second?
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. All right, we are on to conditional use permit for a smoothie shop with Ms. Phillipson.
Thank you. A few years back, we did do a conditional use permit on this property, so it's known as Vaughn's currently. So they are looking to change up the type of business within that facility, and it would be going to a smoothie shop, so that does require a change to that conditional use permit. We did hold the public hearing at the last Planning Commission meeting, and there were no public comments on this, and staff is recommending approval of that CUP. So tonight would be requested to do a motion and second to approve Resolution 2154, approving that CUP for the smoothie shop at 12172 Hancock Street.
Marie, none of the other restrictions from that CUP were changed, just the verbiage from coffee shop to smoothie shop? Okay.
Yeah. I believe most of them copied over. I know garbage was one of the key elements. They have a 0 lot setback right there. So it's placing conditions on how much garbage can be outside and timing of it. And traffic has been an issue. There's some short-term parking there, so it's making sure that's still taken care of, and then outdoor seating because of that outdoor, or the 0 setback as well. So that is all noted within the resolution.
Okay.
Yeah, outdoor seating.
If there's no questions, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2154, conditional use permit for smoothie shop at building currently known as Vaughn's.
I'll second.
Motion from Mike, second from Rick. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Preliminary plat and final plat applications for LTTM properties. Ms. Flipson.
The property that you just mentioned is a single lot plat. So this is one of the only parcels kind of in that segment along First Street that has not been platted yet. So this property is currently Von Hansen Snacks. So if you look at the survey or the plat that's submitted with it, basically what this is doing is cutting off the right-of-way and dedicating that as an actual right-of-way versus an easement. So it squares off or kind of makes their parcel more rectangular. So this is for right-of-way purposes, dedicating it to the city. Staff has been supportive of this, and since this lot is already developed, we have not required a development agreement since it has already taken place. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. This was a public hearing at the last Planning Commission, and there was no public comment. So then tonight it would be a request for two different motions. The first one, Resolution 2155, approving the prelim plat, and then the second motion would be 2156, approving that final plat for the property.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2155, approving the preliminary plat, application of LTTM properties.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Got one.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve, resolution 2156, approving the final plat application for LTTM properties.
And I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay. Becker, 2040, Shaping a Better Becker Comprehensive Plan Adoption. Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. You'll notice it is not the compensation study.
Yes.
That would have been a problem.
Did I say it correctly this time?
You did. It was great. Perfect. So, we're very excited to present this to you. It's been going on for a year and a half, so much longer than we anticipated. COVID lengthened that out some, so we've actually been working really hard on this for about a year and a half. Through a lot of few bumps, especially in engagement at the start. The last 3 months we've been spent really trying to engage the public and doing a lot of events and attending a lot of things. So we're really excited to present this to you. We kind of ended in late June with the Remark at the Park event, and we did get public comment, and people did reaffirm that this was going in the direction that they would like it to. So that was good to hear. So the only changes that would have been made since the draft got sent out on Friday are just minor. We noticed in the maps that Energy Drive was missing, which is kind of a big thing. So we went through and added that. And in addition, there was some missing definitions of the land use categories, which was needed. So those were also added. It is the same as what it was, or close to the same as what it was from the 2012 comprehensive plan. So the land use classifications are really similar for the future land use map. Beyond that, that's it on the changes that we made. We did mention at Planning Commission that those would be made. A public hearing was held there with no public comment, at least at the hearing itself, and they recommended approval. So we are seeking for a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2157, adopting the comprehensive plan, Becker 2040, Shaping a Better Becker. And be happy to answer any questions.
Will this plan be loaded onto our site?
Yes, so thank you for reminding me, because I was gonna say that. So it will be loaded on the website, and it has been available for some time for people to view the draft, and we've pushed that out pretty heavily to try and get people to comment. There was several surveys, again, we attended events to really try and push that, utility bill mailers, etc. But yes, it will be. After this meeting, we'll make sure that tomorrow we post a draft of the adopted plan on the website. Any other questions or?
Just a comment, I know you've put a ton of work into this over the, you've been there's been others too, but you've been kind of the face of it, for the last, at least 18 months. I mean, prior to COVID, we were thinking we were gonna wrap this up sooner. And, so just, congratulations on, good night for you to be able to see this, cross the finish line here. you know, the comp plan is, you know, it's a little bit different, you know, when we do other studies, I mean, we can, you know, we'll vote to accept a study and then we could either take it or leave it, and we could literally do nothing out of it. You know, the comp plan, you know, is a little bit unique in that it, does have some legal bearing, if you wanna say. So I know at Planning Commission, you know, we've spent a lot of time on this on Planning Commission, but that's because, you know, when we look at things at Planning Commission, this is one of the things that would come back, and if something were to change, you would say, well, is it on your comp plan? I mean, there is, you know, legal ramifications if we don't, as a Planning Commission, follow the comp plan too. So, I mean, there is a, you know, it was important that we take a long time and get it right, and so, you know, I was involved in the last one too, and it was, you know, this, like I said, just a great night for you to see across the finish line.
Well, just to reiterate, it is what we do, so, I mean, that's, as a city, this is your backbone, so I think it's really, thank you for mentioning that, it's really important to know that, and as planners, this is what we live for and do, and as a city, it's your guiding direction for 20 years, so, which is exciting. It's a living document too, so, but it's meant to be used, not just sit on a shelf.
I'd like to add, I've had several people mention to me, the fact that they could do input. They were very happy with the fact that they could
That's good.
put input into it and know that it was gonna be looked at. So,
That's good to hear.
so the people that were involved in giving you the information, I gotta say the majority of them have to be very pleased with what's happening.
Thank you.
Jake, a question. The data set that is used to compile the demographics of the city, such as census population, all of that, what time frame is that?
So I think in the appendix it was recent. I don't know if it was post-census though, because it would have had to been, I don't know if it was available at the time. So the community profile in the appendix will actually go through the dates that they utilized the information from. They did do projections based off what their growth would seem, so based off a community survey and others. But I don't know if it incorporated the 2020 census into it. I don't think it did, because at the time,
It was just prior.
when they were pulling the data, it was just prior to it. So, but that is something that, again, as a living document, that is something you can update and pull the data from if it's something that has changed. So
Okay.
that's one thing to remember. And it's something we can look at.
Anything else for Jacob?
If not, I'll make a motion, we approve resolution 2157, the Becker 2020 comprehensive plan.
Would you like the 2040 plan?
40, excuse
Okay.
me. Bup.
I'll upgrade you, 2040 for free.
See how quickly that changes?
It's
It's a living document. It changes on the fly.
Yeah, it's already changed.
I'll second that motion.
Motion from Mike, second from Robin. Any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
Bravo. Purchase of a 2021 Bobcat 5600 tool cat with an SG60 stump grinder. Mr. Listen.
Thank you, Mayor, appreciate that. So tonight I have for council's consideration RCA and Resolution 2158 to purchase a tool cat with a stump grinder attachment. This was not part of our plan in Public Works. Unfortunately, a staff member, when coming back from doing work at Snuffy's Landing, was driving the tool cat with the stump grinder attachment on that. As they were crossing the railroad tracks on County Road 8, the stump grinder attachment did catch the tracks, and it caused the vehicle to turn on its side. After it was taken to THECO for inspection, it was determined between THECO and the insurance adjuster for the city that the tool cat and the attachment were total losses. Fortunately for the staff member, they were not severely injured, so that was a good thing. They did have a cut on their forehead, a little sore after that, so that part was, I guess, a good outcome from the situation. So what I've included in the packet tonight is the emails from our insurance adjuster that kind of go over what they determined the loss to be, what the deductible is for that. I've also included that replacement cost quotation. It is state bid pricing, so that's why we did not include a second quote for that piece of equipment. We outline, this was discussed at Budget and Finance, because there's gonna be a difference between what the insurance company gives the city minus our deductible and what the final cost for replacement is. So it was discussed at Budget and Finance that that difference would come out of the revolving insurance capital fund. So I outlined that in the RCA there. So kind of summarize, the city would receive $50,027.84. That's the insurance minus that deductible. And then the difference would be the $11,397.57, which would come out of that revolving capital fund. So tonight I'm asking for a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2158, authorizing the purchase of that toolcat and a stump grinder. And if there's any questions council has for me, I'll answer those the best I can.
And these will start on the CIP as a progression as day one now, right? Okay.
Yep, so we changed that in the CIP, so that would be adjusted going forward, correct.
Because this was a 2023
Yep, it was
target
supposed
for
to be.
replacement.
Yep, so we're going from 2023 now to 2026, yep.
We did receive the, insurance company.
Okay, good.
If there's no other questions, make a motion, we approve resolution 2158, purchase of a 5600 Bobcat and a stump grinder.
I'll second.
Motion from Mike, second from Becky. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Administrator and staff reports. The release for Oak Street Partners Development Agreement with Ms. Flipson.
Thank you. Back in 1994, the city council did approve a development agreement for a strip mall or commercial mini mall. The applicant was Oak Street Partners. So that development agreement did have a 10-year condition on it related to occupancy of the building. So this wasn't something that was just built and the CO was done, so the development agreement was released. So there has been some time since that development was done that this has been on file. So now that the property is currently going through a sale, it was triggered that this is still on the books as being an active development agreement that has not been considered fulfilled. So tonight is a final request to consider that development done and complete, and acknowledging that they have satisfied their obligations of the development agreement. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, Resolution 2159 does authorize the signatures of a release for that development agreement for Oak Street Partners LLP.
So even if there were items that were not yet fulfilled, it expired in 2005, so regardless, it's a done.
Yep, that has expired, yes.
Okay. So I make a motion to approve resolution 2159, authorizing the mayor and or city administrator and or city clerk to sign a release of development agreement for Oak Street Partners.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, carried. Thank you. Consent agenda, Mr. Przezinski.
Madam Mayor, City Council, thank you. Consent agenda for July 6, 2021. 4 items. Item number 1, hiring and termination reports from our finance department, police department, community center, and Pebble Creek Golf Course. Item number 2, 21-22 liquor liability insurance renewal for the organization. Item number 3, one-time acting lead agreement between the city of Becker and our construction and general laborers union, which is our utilities and streets bargaining unit. Item number 4, Cisco key drop delivery. That was referenced earlier, I think, in the report from Mike. Remember, that will improve delivery of inventory for our restaurant. So those are the 4 items for the consent agenda. I'd like to move that along if possible. If you have questions, I can certainly try to answer those questions.
So if we don't approve Shawnee's resignation, does that mean she gotta stay then?
That is what it means.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Payment of the bills.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Any Discussion. Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Anniversary announcements for the month of July. Jacob Sanders is our city planner, and he's celebrating 2 years with us. Wow. Roger Bellinger, Public Works, he's our mechanic, he's celebrating 6 years. Chad Clausen, he's a maintenance worker at Streets and Parks, and he's celebrating 3 years with us. Ryan Peckskamp is a maintenance worker at Public Works, and he's celebrating his 2nd year with us. Corey Butin. Bitkin.
I've just started getting it right now.
Okay. Well, it's been 3 years for him, so maybe we'll get it next time. So wastewater treatment operator. And then Jeremy Halverson is our wastewater treatment operator, and he's celebrating 24 years. So congratulations to those folks. Does council, after a very long evening of fees, have anything else for the betterment of Becker? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion from Mike, second from Robin. Those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are closed. Adjourned at 6:27. Sorry, there's like a light and I have to like.